I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm honored in this hour to mix it up with Katrina Robinson. Katrina is an American former politician who served in the Tennessee State Senate from the 33rd District from 2019 to 2022 as a member of the Democratic Party. She was the first sitting member of the state Senate to, she stumbled like I stumbled, and that's quite all right. I really don't care about the stumble. It's her willingness to fight back and bounce back. Ms. Robinson was born in Memphis, Tennessee, educated at the University of Memphis and the University and Union University. Founded a nursing college in 2015, and she was elected to the state Senate in 2018 after defeating incumbent Senator Reginald Tate in the Democratic primary. Katrina Robinson, Senator, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jesse. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate you being here and for the fight that you're putting up. I think it's the same fight that I'm putting up. Katrina, before we get into all of that, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your service. Tell me about your desire to be of service and how you came to seek elective office.
So I am a born and raised Memphian. I lived in Memphis all of my life and was a single mom at a very early age. And decided to go to nursing school and ended up working at an inner city teaching hospital. And I would come across young women who had the same issues that I had. They didn't have the support that they needed or the financial resources to go to school. So I wrote a certified nursing assistant program for those who are interested in entry-level medical entry. So once I wrote the program, we started in January of 2015. And subsequently, I wrote a grant to the federal government where the government awarded me $1.6 million to help fund our program, but also to fund community patient education where our students were engaged to help those who did not have the insurance coverage they need to have 24-hour care. We trained their family members to do that. So we were in business for about 3 years before I evolved into the only Black-owned nursing school in the state. And subsequently, in doing that, I met so many women from all different walks of life where I realized that education was not the only issue. And I started training to run for office. So I trained with different organizations like Nobel, Vote Run Lead, Emily's List, Higher Heights. And finally, I took the run for office in 2018, and we were successful. It took a lot. I didn't come from a political pedigree. I was just a hard worker. And it was me and my best friend, and we did what we had to do to get me in office. And I enjoyed every moment of serving my constituents. Didn't necessarily enjoy the politics of it all, but I did enjoy the service and the people that I was able to touch and help.
Well, I want you to know on our show, Katrina, we honor you. We honor your service. We honor your desire to serve. And I'm just grateful that you're willing to be a guest to talk about a critical issue. Let me be clear at the very outset. I am supporting unequivocally the full, absolute, complete, and unconditional pardon of Senator Katrina Robinson. We need to fight for everyone's pardon and everyone's forgiveness. Congressman Alcee Hastings was a federal judge, our previous guest. That congressional district was created in large measure because Corinne Brown filed a lawsuit that created 3 congressional districts. In reality, she had to sue the Democrats and sue the Republicans to get something for Black folk. Now, that's true of most Black elected officials. We have to find our own nursing homes. We got to fight the Democrats. We got to fight the Republicans. And somewhere along that line, it's easy, if you're not a go along to get along Democrat, to end up with no friends because you're fighting for Black folk. And sometimes you scratch your head and your behind at the same time and say, I should just be quiet and sit down here and not say nothing. Well, Katrina ain't one of those people. And I'm proud she's one of my guests on the program tonight. Katrina, continue your story for us.
So I was elected in 2018 and quickly just got down to business. I was a freshman legislator, but it passed the most bills any freshman legislator had passed in the history of our body. I was in leadership. I was on our intergovernmental relations board. I was on a number of leadership positions, whether it was the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, Tennessee Black Caucus. I was there. And I also gained a reputation for being a person who did not hold her tongue. So I've been raised no nonsense. I run my business no nonsense, and I govern no nonsense. And that it was popular with those who it mattered for, but it was also unpopular with those who were the subject of it. So quickly, it became an issue. And so in 2020, I was served a 48 count indictment alleging that I had stolen over $600,000 in federal grant funds from my baby, my business, the Healthcare Institute. I was completely blindsided. I didn't know what was going on because, again, I was a first generation business owner, first generation elected, first generation everything. And I hired someone who I trusted, who actually came recommended from a financial pastor in the community as someone who was an expert in grant accounting. And I paid this man $4,000 a month to take care of this, right? So we're going through the indictment, and again, it started at 48 counts. By the time we got to January the following year, it was reduced to 17 counts. But I still was not pleading. And I'm one of those people that, and I'll tell anybody, do not let the federal government back you into pleading to something that you know you did not do.
So, Katrina, my question to you is, and I'm getting some signals here that I was a little bit confused about, and I've been told just keep going, so I'm going to keep going.
Katrina, I thought you were telling me to stop.
No, I didn't know what the signals was I was receiving, but it's okay. Katrina, listen, let me ask you the question. So when you got blindsided by this, because I think that because some of us don't hold our tongue, we get a target on our back, right? I mean, you had a successful business before you became a state legislature. Now you've got a successful business and you have power. You get accused. Tell us the remainder of that story.
So in January, it was reduced to 17 counts. And I was still asked to plead. They wanted me to do, I think it was 3.5 years in prison. And I just refused because I know in my heart that I didn't do anything wrong. I took the measures that I could take to make sure that the right thing was done. Let's go to trial. And so they gave me a superseding indictment on top of that, I guess kind of to force my hand. But we proceeded to trial, and I went to trial in September of 2021. The government put on their proof for the first week, and their proof was essentially every purchase that I had made for the time range that we were talking about, whether it was my personal credit card, my business credit card, my eBay account, my Amazon account, my everything for the jury to see. They brought in an accountant who didn't have a CPA license at all. There was no forensic accounting done. Nothing was done. They instructed her to say, I don't know, but she purchased it with grant funds. That was her answer to every question about inquiry about any expenditure. So at the end of their proof, the judge acquitted me of 15 of the 20 counts that were on the table. Unheard of. We're thinking we're in good position. The judge sends it to the jury. The jury comes back and finds me guilty on 4 out of 5 of the counts. Now, mind you, 3 of those counts were wire fraud counts for reports that my administrative assistant had come to court and actually testified that she submitted under my username, but because I was the authorizing official on the grant, I was criminally charged for it.
So your indictment's a federal indictment.
Yes.
Yes, just like mine.
Yes.
And I want. Let me try and get this in to help our audience kind of understand what this means. In the last hour, because of our technical difficulty, I was able to explain to the listeners the presidential power to pardon before conviction, after conviction, during the pendency of the trial, during the trial, after completion of sentence, or even now in a state of felonization. The president of the United States has the power to issue to his son a full, absolute, complete, and unconditional pardon. Now, in Katrina's case, the senator's case, and in my case, we've paid our debt to society. We've done what the judge and the jury, in my case I pled, said do. But we still have this thing that affects us, this restoration issue that affects us. And Hunter didn't do any time. I respect Hunter. Hunter is my friend. I know Hunter Biden, but he didn't do any time. The lessons that I learned in prison were important to who I am today, fighting for men and women who've been in this process. So the president can pardon you anywhere in this process. On this show, I'm fighting for Katrina Robinson's full, complete, unconditional pardon. Why? Because she's paid her debt to society. She doesn't owe the American people anything else. She doesn't owe them anymore. She shouldn't have to check a box. She shouldn't have to hold her head down. If she wants to run for office again, she has plenty of life and plenty of service left in her. She should be able to do that. So I can come down there and campaign for her, help register some voters and get her reelected. Katrina, you're fighting for a pardon.
Yes. So I didn't get to say what I needed to say. When we got to court and the judge acquitted me of the 15 out of 20 counts, we realized that the problem was I was wrongfully prosecuted. That prosecutors thought that my grant was subject to something called program income. So when a federal agency grants a nonprofit a grant, any profit that nonprofit makes as subsequent to that grant becomes the property of the granting agency. My grant wasn't subject to that. But by the time we were a week into trial, they didn't back down. And so here I am, a convicted felon. I, like the young man you were talking about at the beginning of the hour, I tried to go to the White House too. I was actually invited to a tour as a senator and was turned away from the White House.
I want you to hold that point right there, Katrina. I've got you for the full hour, and I'm going to let you have every moment of it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm joined with Katrina Robinson, our senator, when we come forward.
Speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
New holiday deals just dropped at Lowe's. Get up to 30% off select major appliances, plus an additional $75 off for every $1,000 you spend on select kitchen major appliances from brands like Whirlpool, KitchenAid, Amana, and Maytag. And don't miss big savings on DeWalt. Save $80 on a DeWalt 20-volt max 2-tool combo kit. Was $229, now just $149. Lowe's knows deals. Offers valid 12/5 through 12/11. Cannot be combined with additional discounts. See Lowe's.com for details and qualifying items. While supplies last.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online. I read that 3 out of 4 adults in the United States have a high risk factor for severe COVID-19. And Black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. My special guest is Senator Katrina Robinson, who I'm honored to have on the program. Katrina, just before the break, you were telling a part of your story.
Yes.
About the unconditional pardon.
So yes, one thing I think our community needs to know, let me back it up, Jesse. is that the media doesn't tell the truth. Most times, of course, we don't own the media. Shout out to Tavis Smiley for creating this platform. But we don't own the media. The media shapes how our community views us as leaders.
Yes.
And it creates this stage to be able to put on this theatric of us being untrustworthy, of us being scandalous, of us being not worthy to be in elected office. And I think that's a lot of opportunity for us to be educated about how things work within this criminal justice system, because it is so flawed. If you ever have time, if we have any readers who are watching or listening, go look for a book called Charged. I think her name is Emily Bazelon, but it's about how the criminal justice system is geared towards prosecutors making all of the decisions. And how people end up in the situations like myself and others who have been wrongfully prosecuted and wrongfully convicted. There's also, information in books that we've been reading since post-civil rights era about how Black elected officials are targeted. There's a book called Race, Rumors, and Repression. It's basically how the media shapes the community's theory of how Black electeds act and what Black electeds do. You've seen this happen recently with the young lady who was charged in Baltimore, and then how they use the criminal justice system to attack Black power. So I think we need to do a better job of letting people understand how things work and how someone can end up in this position, because a lot of times we just sweep them to the wayside and say, hey, there's another corrupt Black person. And that's not really what happens.
When Senator Robinson says that Black elected officials are targeted, I found that to be very, very true. But I also found your analysis of how the media treats us in this process is also shameful. I mean, it's beyond shameful. I mean, I have spent since my conviction trying to explain to everyone, listen, I never took anything from the public. I'm not discussing taxpayer funds. I couldn't live in Chicago and Washington, D.C. at the same time. So I lived in my campaign. For me, being in Washington was a business expense. But the media said, he took $750,000. He took $750,000. He just took, I never had $750,000 in my campaign one time in 17 years. I didn't raise that much money. But I lived in my campaign to the tune of $75,000 a year, according to the government, over a 10-year period. When they added it up for the length of the offense, he took $750,000 that he raised. And I said, that's not quite, so it's nothing to do with my service in public. It's, I can't afford to live there. When I hear your case, Katrina, that they came after you, you're outspoken, you're beautiful, you represent a new generation of African-American people who speak up and who stood for us. How difficult is that beyond the offense itself, in your family, with your kids, with people who love and care for you? And how do you work through that on a daily basis?
It's been extremely difficult, Jesse. So I mentioned that they accused me of stealing $621,000 in grant funds. By the time the trial was done, I was convicted of miscategorizing $3,484 of my own money.
Wow.
And if you don't find something wrong with that, something is wrong with you. So I say that to say, my situation is very unique. Even when we were in the appeals court, the appeals panel was having a hard time wrapping their head around what happened. And, if there are judges who've been sitting for so long and you're talking to the average person, the average citizen who has supported you, the average student who's gone through your school, they don't really understand. And so I was indicted in 2020. My school had been open for 5 years. I continued to let my students go through school. So when the FBI raided my home in Nashville, in Memphis, my spa, my school, they raided and took every piece of paper, every computer, everything they could find, they took it. I couldn't even do business for a whole month before I got my computers back. But I let those students who were there, they weren't even funded by the grant that was in question. They were funded by other community agencies, employers. Those people pulled out on us. So I literally ate $120,000 in tuition from students who I did not want to fail. I wanted them to graduate and to be licensed as nurses. It took an extreme toll on me because I was to the point where I was having to keep the lights on to make payroll, and I wasn't making any money. I just wanted my students to graduate. On top of that, my mom, she suffered, her health declined. My kids were in a very critical point. My son had just gone off to Morehouse. He returned home. My daughter was graduating from high school. It was just a lot going on at the time. And me as a single mom, it was hard just to even wake up some days, but let alone wake up, smile for the cameras, and be a mom, be a daughter, be a business owner, be an employer. It was a lot. And I'm still healing from that process, but I'm still being prosecuted and persecuted after this. So we filed the appeal, Jesse. We filed an appeal saying we wanted to overturn the 2 convictions for the $3,484. In turn, the federal government filed an appeal and said they wanted to overturn my acquittal. Do you know that I went to the appeals court? The appeals court questioned everything that the federal government did. If you listen to what happened in the appeals hearing versus what was rendered in the opinion, it's 2 totally different things. They granted the feds appeal, so they reinstated my conviction, sent me back to court. I was denied a new trial. And lo and behold, the judge asked them, this was the report we talked about with my administrative assistant did it. So they assigned a loss to each student that was on a clerical report in the amount of $48,000. When the judge asked who suffered the loss, was it HRSA? Was it the Healthcare Institute? The federal government could not say in good faith on record that anyone suffered a loss. Do you know what the judge did? She ordered me a fine for $48,000 and $48,600.
Wow.
Not restitution, but a fine to satisfy the federal government. That's why I said it's important for people to read and understand how the criminal justice system works. Because one day it could be you, it could be your daughter, it could be your sister, your husband, whoever it is. And it doesn't work the way you think it does. They do things in the light most favorable to the government. You remember that phrase?
Mm-hmm. This is
every time I hear it.
I mean, your story is both emotional, but it's also reminding me of my own travails in all of this, right? It never ends. I'm in foreclosure right now. I had to borrow money against my marital property at the time, and after my divorce, we're going to lose what was the marital residence because my ex-wife can't sustain it. She too was indicted as part of the offense. It just never ends. And so when I hear you going through the appellate process and having to live through it again, and then the newspapers, and then Googling all of the stuff over again, I'm so tired of reading Wikipedia statements and bios from people, and it doesn't lead with what we did right. It leads with, oh, this happened, as if this is the stain on our entire existence. And so what does the complete, full, and absolute pardon do for you?
It can never make me whole, Jesse. I will say that. A pardon will never make us whole. Even if there is a pardon, we're still a felon. It doesn't erase anything. I want people to understand it doesn't erase anything. It doesn't expunge anything. When they run a background check on you, they're going to see that felon still, but they're also going to see the presidential pardon. It's still the same thing. However, I come from a state where I can't run for office. I can't vote unless I go through an extensive process that is Republicanly dominated, if that's a word. But yeah, so it will give me a sense of, I don't want to say empowerment, but that someone sees what happened. Someone understands the plight of somebody who has to go through the criminal justice system in this manner. Yes, you have those who have pled guilty, who have been found to have done wrong, and they admit to their wrong, but they paid their debts to society. But you also have those who maintain their innocence still because they were wrongfully prosecuted, and it's not right for them to live as felons. There are hundreds of thousands of people probably going through this. I'm just the one that knows it firsthand. But I think a pardon pretty much sends the message, hey, we understand what happened and we forgive whatever it is that brought you into this situation.
So, Senator, I use this language, this Nixon language, this Hunter Biden language, because the Hunter Biden pardon and the Nixon pardon mirror each other. They're the exact same language. They're different kinds of pardons, but the full, absolute, complete pardon wipes out all of the consequences of conviction as if it never took place in the first place. We may not accept the presidential pardon as whole and forgiving, but there is nothing that can be said on your record once that process is full. Ask Hunter Biden.
Well, I will say this.
In fact, Hunter Biden's gun offense doesn't even take place. His tax case didn't even take place. It doesn't take place. I'm sorry, Senator.
When you pardon somebody before they're even convicted, they don't have a conviction. So it's not going to show. Do you get what I'm saying? So in any sense, a pardon is only as good as what it addresses. So if I have a felon that's on my record for the rest of my life and I have a presidential pardon, I'm still, whether someone wants to recognize it or not, I'm still considered a felon in most people's eyes.
So interestingly enough, and I know we're going to come back from the break and continue this conversation, Richard Nixon is known in history for breaking into Watergate, right? But the pardon isn't just about Watergate. In fact, the pardon doesn't even speak to Watergate. The pardon is from 1969 to 1974. It has date-specific space. It doesn't say perjury. It doesn't say obstruction of justice. It doesn't say destroying tapes. When we come forward, we're going to continue this conversation with Senator Katrina Robinson about the restoration of our lives. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA 1580.
You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Jay-Z's rape accuser may file a criminal complaint against the rapper after her original civil suit alleging sexual assault. That's according to her attorney, Tony Busby. In a statement to TMZ, Busby says he's not ruling out filing those charges against Jay-Z with New York authorities. Wall Street is closing mixed after Wednesday's inflation report met analysts' expectations. The report clears the way for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates next week at its December meeting. A federal court in North Dakota blocked a Biden administration rule allowing deferred action for Childhood Arrivals Program recipients to access Obamacare after 19 states challenged the expansion. And the widely successful National Cinema Day that featured discounted movie tickets will return next year. The Cinema Foundation announced the initiative will be rebranded as At the Movies and will be held quarterly, kicking off January 19th. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Pasadena, the 210 westbound at Fair Oaks. It's a crash. It's out of lanes now in the center divider, but the delays out of Arcadia from Santa Anita Avenue. Sherman Oaks on the 101 northbound at the 405. A crash. They're trying to clear it off to the shoulder. Delays from Laurel Canyon slowing ahead to White Oak and Encino. Also, Anaheim Hills, 241 Toll Road northbound at the 91. It's a wreck that's out of lanes in the center divider, and the drive, it's pretty messy all the way from the Windy Ridge Toll Plaza. A crash in Riverside, 91 westbound at La Sierra. Left lanes blocked with a backup away from 14th Street.
Only at Lowe's, MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500. Discount on eligible product only and reflected in quote. Restrictions apply. See Pro Desk for details. MVP's Pro Rewards program subject to terms.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Even though Kawhi Leonard is practicing again with the Clippers, it's understandable why the team is not in a hurry to increase his practice activity. Leonard has yet to be cleared for full contact workouts or scrimmaging. The Clippers want to make sure Leonard's right knee is completely healthy before that happens. The last time Leonard tried to scrimmage with USA Basketball last summer in Vegas, he was sent home because his knee was bothering him. Leonard has not played in a game since April, Game 3 in the first round of the NBA playoffs against Dallas. Congrats to former NBA players Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady. They were approved by the NFL to become non-controlling minority owners with the Buffalo Bills. South Carolina State quarterback Eric Phoenix was voted HBCU National Player of the Year. Phoenix led South Carolina State to a 9-2 record and threw for 2,460 yards and 20 touchdowns. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
On behalf of her precious family, it is with profound sadness that KBLA Talk 1580 announces the passing of our beloved colleague, Robin Ayers, on Thursday, December 5th. Robin was a bright light. You could see her radiant smile through the radio. We all respected her immense talent, loved her jovial spirit, celebrated her love of family, and honored her faith in God. Our thoughts and prayers are with Robin's entire family, most especially her husband Rob and her twin daughters Brooklyn and Madison. We ask you to join us in praying for the Ayers family as they navigate the difficult days ahead. In her honor, all this week, we're broadcasting the best of the Rob Report on KBLA Talk 1580. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Hello, LA. Metro is your partner for thriving communities and sustainable travel. We're dedicated to providing better transit for everyone. When you go Metro, you're more connected to jobs, healthcare, school, and loved ones. It's the way of the future. Start your journey at metro.net.
This season, Chevy brings classic pairings, cookies and milk, mistletoe and kisses, and your holiday plans and a new Chevy. Silverado 1500 gives you power and capability with 430 pound-feet of torque to haul your holiday tree. Equinox EV and the all-new Equinox offer award-winning quality and style to see you through the holiday season. See why Chevy makes everything better and brighter. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. My very special guest is State Senator Katrina Robinson. Katrina, thank you for being on my program today.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
Oh, we're just getting started because I'm going to have you on as a regular guest as long as I'm on talk radio. I really, really appreciate your thought process. I appreciate who you are. We celebrate what you've done for us as a community.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep pushing for you no matter what anyone says, that Katrina Robinson deserves a full, absolute, complete, and unconditional pardon. Now,
thank you.
I want to ask this question of you. Did you fill out a pardon application?
I did, but I'm going to tell you, I did not submit my pardon application because, as you said earlier, there's a waiting period for 5 years after you've been sentenced. So I was ready to go.
Okay, now stay right there. That's unconstitutional. That DOJ, the Department of Justice, adding an additional sentence to everyone who walks out of prison after what the judge said do and or what the jury said do. And then when you go to fill out the pardon application, the Department of Justice says, we won't accept your pardon application for 5 more years. I wish I could go back in time and say to my judge, you gave me 30 months, but are you aware that even if I do 30 months, the DOJ is going to give me 5 years on top of my 30 months? That's unconstitutional. And Hunter Biden didn't have to fill out a pardon application.
Well, that brings me to my next point. So, and not only do you have to wait after your 30-month sentence, you also have to wait until after you're off of supervised release. So it's 5 years past the last date of that. So for me, I didn't fill it out at first because I didn't think I qualified for it. But I was on the phone with Ben Crump last week, and he was like, well, we're going to help you and all the other Black elected women who've been prosecuted by the system get pardons, talking about me, Marilyn Mosby. I think Kim was in that. So it just emboldened me to at least try, because if you can forgive someone for the transgressions and offenses that have been forgiven on behalf of the president for his son, I don't understand why anyone else who is an upstanding citizen, who has done what they're supposed to do, who's in nursing and taking care of the elder population to this day, could not receive a pardon.
I want to add to that, I'm so grateful too that Ben Crump has reached out to me and written a letter to the President of the United States on my behalf. At the beginning of the last hour, I read the Supreme Court holding on the presidential pardon power. So few full pardons have ever been issued to African Americans that we don't even know what it is. But there's a Supreme Court case in 1866 called Ex parte Garland, and it reads thusly: thus conferred, a full pardon is unlimited with the impeachment exception stated. It extends to every offense known to the law and may be exercised at any time after its commission, either before legal proceedings are taken or during their pendency or after conviction and judgment. This power of the president is not subject to legislative control. Congress can neither limit the effect of his pardon nor exclude from its exercise any class of offenders. The benign prerogative of mercy reposed in him cannot be fettered by any legislative restrictions. But this is what I really want my sister, who I'm fighting for, to receive. A pardon reaches both the punishment prescribed for the offense and the guilt of the offender. And when the pardon is full, it releases the punishment and blots out of existence the guilt, so that in the eye of the law, the offender is as innocent as if he never committed the offense. It wipes out guilt. And that's why I'm not just fighting for a pardon for Senator Robinson or fighting for a pardon for Marilyn Mosby and others. When I got out of prison, I did not fill out a pardon application because I knew that I did not need one. I had a press conference and said, I want Barack Obama to consider pardoning millions of people who paid their debt to society in full. And I don't see why, and I understand it really clearly, that because our people have been so unexposed to the full pardon, not the partial pardon, not the half pardon, but the full pardon, the Hunter Biden pardon, the Nixon pardon, we can wipe out all of the consequences and disabilities that arrive. But the language that Joe Biden uses for us has to be the same language that he used for his son. And I was in solitary confinement when I made this discovery. And so it transformed my prison experience and my ministry to on earth as it is in heaven, as opposed to waiting for the by and by to forgive me. We need, during this Christmas season, full, absolute, and complete pardons for Senator Katrina Robinson, Marilyn Mosby, and millions of others who deserve to have their lives restored. Senator?
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that the president has been very reserved with his ability to pardon those who actually deserve it, with the exception of those who were pardoned for small non-violent crimes involving marijuana convictions. He's only exercised his power for about 27 people in relation to those who have been pardoned by previous presidents. And to your discovery, I don't know when the last time that was done, besides what we've talked about on this show tonight.
You know, they give us pardons when we're gone.
Yeah.
They give us posthumous pardons. Marcus Garvey needs one. Yeah. Others need one. They don't give us pardons while we are alive so that we can continue to live our lives. In a real sense, and this is my discovery in solitary confinement, the religion of Jesus. What was the religion of Jesus at the hour of his birth and crucifixion? During his ministry, he looks up, he sees Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, David, and Jesus. David and Jesus. David and Jesus. David was the commander of an army and a militia, and Jesus granted reprieves and pardons. The founding fathers say that the finger of God is in the Constitution. It's actually there as a function. The function of the lineage of David is in the hands of one person to grant new life on earth as it is in heaven. And this is the only nation in human history that has been created to do just that. They called that power the finger of God, and I don't see anything that you've done that's outside the grace of God on earth as it is in heaven. But I can't imagine you spending the next 10 years of your life fighting the appellate court and fighting to restore your name and trying to get a favorable editorial written about you, or someone who won't recognize some of the contributions that you made in your life. You cannot, nor can I, nor can any one of 77 million people. The sum of our experiences in our entire lives can't be the one mistake that we made. It just can't be. And that's why I don't see your life any different than Hunter's. And I want Hunter's language in your life, just like I want it in everyone else's life. And I told the White House on many occasions, if I'm not forgiven at all, at least forgive everybody else. That's my prayer for you. That's my hope for you.
I appreciate that. And that is, I believe that is necessary. I believe that we have to set a new trajectory for how we handle things in this country when it comes to those who have done their time, they have served their community, they have paid their dues, and those who have been a victim of the criminal justice system have repaid their debts to society. They've done what they were supposed to do, what you've ordered them to do. They're now contributing to their communities the way that they should, and were doing probably before they were ended by the criminal justice system. So I believe that there are a number of people just like you, just like me, just like so many of the others we've talked about today who deserve this type of reprieve.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we're going to ask Senator Katrina Robinson what's next. She has a bright future.
You up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide cleans better than the leading competitive free detergent, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues.
Plus, Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do
Let's play something, Grandma.
became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk.
Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. My very special guest is Senator Katrina Robinson. Before the break, I was asking Senator Katrina Robinson to share with us what's next on her bright future. Katrina?
Who's to know? So yes, I am now in full-time consulting mode in communications and marketing, specializing in crisis communications, utilizing my experience. So that has been a very fulfilling role to step into. I've also taken on the role of executive producer of a documentary that is around the topic that we're talking about, how Black elected officials are prosecuted in the criminal justice system to usurp power from the Black community. And then I have a book coming out this spring. So be on the lookout for that. If you go to my website, thekatrinarobinson.com, you can sign up for first editions.
Share with us your website once again, please.
It's thekatrinarobinson.com, Katrinarobinson.com. Also, if you're interested in signing the petition to pardon me, it is change.org/pardon Katrina. That's change.org/pardon Katrina.
We can't say that enough for the next 10 minutes before the top of our show. So I want to make sure that that is done. She said that she wants us to sign her petition. Those of us who should be considered because we paid our debt to society, or we've been wrongfully convicted or wrongfully targeted, we have to go through these extraordinary measures of asking people all across the country to hear our case one more time for the consideration of the President of the United States. And if Joe Biden doesn't consider us in about 40 days, then we either going to ask Donald Trump to consider us over the next 4 years. And the way the presidents pass out the grace of God is you have to wait till the end of the day, right before they run out the door. And then if it's 8 years, some of them don't do nothing in their first term. They only do it at the end of 8 years because they seemingly have no problem leading an unforgiven people. If I were president of the United States, I would not want to lead a group of people who are unforgiven. I would want everyone to be forgiven. And that's what I'm asking for Katrina Robinson. I see her website. Please keep her website up on the screen where you can go and sign her petition and also leave your name and your contact information so that we can be supportive of her pardon efforts. There are only about 40 days left. And I don't think people understand. And someone asked me this the other day. In fact, it aired on a program today. Jesse Jackson Jr., would you accept a pardon from Donald Trump? And I'm going to ask that question of Katrina. I'd rather not. I support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'd like to be a member of a party that forgives people. Asking Donald Trump to forgive me hurts my politics. It hurts my faith in my own community after I've traveled the country on behalf of Democrats, on behalf of people who share my values. Now I got to go ask Donald Trump, and then I'm going to start sounding crazy when I'm on KBLA Talk. We don't know if Jesse's with us or not with us because, no, don't add Trump to my resume. I'll just wait. I guess I'll be 70, wait for the next Democrat, and hope they have a forgiving soul. But I want you to go to thekatrinarobinson.com. Give us that website one more time where we can sign your petition.
The website for the petition is change.org/pardon Katrina, PARDON
Tell us about your family. Tell us about your kids.
So I have 2 children. They are the loves of my life. My son is 24. His name is Jaden. He's in sales in Memphis. And then my daughter is Amaya. She's a nurse like her mom. She's 22. She lives in Dallas.
They've obviously been inspired by your life and your work.
Yes.
And they decided to follow your leadership?
Well, they utterly decided that they were not going to go into politics. So my kids, they canvassed for me. They knocked doors. They made phone calls. They were with me in the trenches. Even when I started the school, they would stay up with me while I was writing the grant 2:00 in the morning past their bedtime. It's always been just us. And so even going through the trials that I've gone through, they've had to go through those trenches as well. So it has, affected them in their adult life, but it's also matured them very quickly too, to make them more grateful for the things that they have and the things that they go through on a day-to-day basis. So our lives have been full. God has been good to us. We travel with favor, grace, and mercy every day. So I'm just thankful for that.
God is great, and God is definitely good. I've not really delved into the consequences that it has at home. When my offense came and my wife's offense, our offense came together. My kids stopped getting invited to parties.
Yeah.
They went from a father in Congress and a mother in the city council to, the Jacksons are not who we thought they were. And they wanted to protect their children from us. And I never really recovered. I don't think my son's a student at Morehouse now. My daughter went to UCLA and lives abroad now, but I can still see in their eyes that the restoration of their mother and father matters to them. And when I was asked to file for a pardon application, I said, I'm not doing this without my ex-wife, because I shared with those who asked me, I said, I have to fight for my kids. This isn't just about me. They must see their parents restored. And so even though we're divorced and don't agree on much, I'm fighting for her too. And I don't know what else to do with the remainder of my days, but to put up the best fight for what remains of our lives, because I believe all of us, Senator, have so much more to offer. And
Absolutely.
quite frankly, I know you run from politics, but I'd like to see you back in public office.
Would you now?
Would you ever give it consideration?
I never say never.
Oh, great.
I never say never. You never know what God will do, and you never know what will be put on my heart. But at this very moment, it's not on the agenda.
I can't blame you. I found myself on talk radio because I'm broke as two left feet. And
Aren't we all?
Your thoughts about what's coming in terms of the next administration, and I'll let you take it to the top of the hour with some final thoughts. Your thoughts about what's coming and what we can do to persevere and resist.
I haven't really been able to process what happened last month. I will say it is but a testament of what we've heard over and over again about America's position as it relates to a Black woman. And though we had the most qualified candidate who had served in every branch of government, who had done the work, who had shown herself astute, worthy, and prepared, the country really showed us its heart. And I don't think that there is a way to spin this into a positive, Jesse. I think, we have to deal with, what it is. And we have to be very mindful of how things play out. I don't think people really give much credence to how detrimental this can be to our country over the next 4 years. The things that are changing as we look now, if we're looking at these cabinet appointments, we're looking at some of these public statements that our president-elect is making, and it really saddens me. It worries me. It gives me such a feeling of despair, and I hate not to be a beacon of bright light for our listeners, but that's how I feel about what has happened in this country. And I just think we have to do our best to take care of our families and ourselves in the best way that we can, and hold out.
Well, my father and my mother both shared with me that with no test, there is no testimony. And that you've shown an amazing and an incredible resilience. One, to raise your family. Number two, to be a single mother raising a family. To go through all that you've gone through and to still have the character, the fortitude to not only fight for your family, to fight for yourself, but to fight for others. That is a true testament to the fact that we get stronger through our stripes, that through our stripes, our character is forged. We are not who we were yesterday. We are a more resilient people today than we've ever been. We only have about 2 minutes left. I'd like you to end on some closing thoughts.
I just want to end with the fact that I want our community to be better. I want us to be more invested in each other. There is an opportunity to be taken advantage of and to be left in the cold if we don't take responsibility for those who are around us. And we have sometimes the habit of turning a blind eye to what's going on with others because we feel like it doesn't affect us. But in the end of it all, because we didn't even talk about this, I was expelled from the Senate in 2022. I didn't even have a conviction at that time. It was not even constitutional. My constituents showed up. They were in the galley praying and pleading for these people not to expel me from my seat. And when I sit there, I said, you may feel as if I deserve this because of what you've seen in the media or because of what you've heard, but this is unconstitutional. I am not going to be the last person. And that's how we ended up with the Tennessee 3. So I say that to say, pay more attention, be more vigilant about your brother and your sister, and show up.
We are so very proud of you. We're so grateful for your service. It doesn't get much better than that. Please support State Senator Katrina Robinson. Go to her website and go to change.org and sign her petition. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. Until next time.